one day away from another Sunday of the NFL season. This Sunday is going to be week 8 of the NFL season, and so today we have our picks for all the matchups in week 8. But before we get into the video, I want to take a second to ask you to please subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. Really helps us out. If you're a fan of the NFL, you'll love this channel as we release multiple NFL-related videos every Thursday and Saturday all year long. Now, let's get back to the video. So, looking back at week 7, I got 11 of 4 picks right. That's one better than Vegas. I got 2 of my upsets correct, those being the Lions beating the Vikings, as well as the Steelers beating the Jets. Still don't know how that one was an upset, but hey, we take those easy picks. And I got a little too frisky with the Giants beating the Eagles. Yeah, in hindsight, that might not have been the best pick, but hey, every once in a while, I like to get a little frisky. I like to go against Vegas in a couple, and I like to be a little bit bold. So you'll see a few of those bold picks this week, but maybe not as bold as Giants over Eagles. So starting out with this week's picks, we start out with the Cardinals visiting the Dolphins, and the Dolphins are going to have Tua Tagovailoa back this week. That is a massive boon for them, and as such, they are favored in this game at home, at the 1 o'clock slot, in their home stadium, where they definitely have that bit of a heat advantage, though, albeit it is late October, that heat advantage has kind of gone away. But with Tua back, with Achane, Mostert, Hill, Waddle, etc., the Dolphins are at full capacity. They have everybody in-house, and so I understand why they're favored, but I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals. And it's just because I think the Dolphins will be a little bit rusty with Tua being reintegrated into the offense. The offense has looked bad for the most part this season. The only game they looked decent was against the Jaguars, who they barely beat in week 1 of the NFL season, and that was when we thought the Jaguars were good. We now know the Jaguars are absolutely terrible, and the Dolphins barely beat them at full power with that being a terrible Jags team, and so I think this is a matchup where the Cardinals could come in, win this game on the road, as they've been better integrated together, played for a little bit longer together, and they got a big win against the Chargers last week, showing that they might be moving in the right direction. So I'm calling the upset with the Cardinals beating the Dolphins this week. Our next matchup is a divisional matchup with the Jets visiting the Patriots. The Jets are favored in this one, and I came so close to picking the Patriots in this one. I'll give it away, though. I did end up going with the Jets. The Pats are at home. It's a divisional game. There's a lot going in favor of the Patriots to be able to win this game, especially with how we've seen Drake May play. He is a solid quarterback who's actually been significantly better than Jacoby Brissett. But the Patriots' offensive line is still terrible. The Jets do have a pretty good pass rush, and I think that alone is enough to scare me away from taking the Patriots in this game and going with the Jets. Against the spread, I'm definitely taking the Patriots in this game because I like to take division rivalries, home games, when you're picking against the spread, but I'm gonna take the Jets to win this one, though, again, will not be surprised if the Patriots pull this one off. After this, we got the Eagles visiting the Bengals. This is a matchup of 2 fairly good teams in the NFL. The Eagles sitting at 4-2. The Bengals are at 3-4, but are much improved after a putrid start to their NFL season. They definitely look like the team we expected them to be coming into the 2024 season, and with them being at home, I am taking them to win this game. Yes, there is a world where the Eagles can win this game, absolutely. They're not a bad team, but the Eagles have been a team I'm not that sold on for the most part this season. They haven't looked that great in my opinion. Their defense is shaky. Their pass game has not been great at all. Yes, they have a really good run game, but I think the Bengals passing attack can absolutely keep up with the Eagles rushing attack. And so, at home, I'm taking the Bengals to beat the Eagles. After that, we got the Green Bay Packers going on the road and playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Packers have been one of the best teams in the NFL all season long. Even when Jordan Love went down and Malik Willis was the quarterback, they still won both those games. They are a very, very effective football team. On the flip side, the Jaguars have been one of the most disappointing football teams of the 2024 NFL season. Coming into this year, I would have said this would be a very competitive game. The Jaguars being at home would have given them the leg up, and I expected them to be a good team. The Packers, this could definitely have been a bit of a trap game, and I don't know who I would have picked coming into the season. I think I might have slightly leaned Packers, but it definitely would have been a toss-up in my opinion. However, this is not the beginning of the season. This is week 8, and we have 7 weeks of football to help make our picks. And with those 7 weeks of football, this is an easy Packers call. Yeah, they're on the road. The Jaguars could do something. But also, not to be forgotten, the Jaguars spent the last 2 weeks over in the UK playing football games, which means they got a little bit of jet lag coming back to North America for this game. The Packers do not have those same issues. The Packers are a very good football team, as we all know, and I expect Jordan Love to easily be able to pull off the W against these Jaguars. Next up, we have another divisional matchup, the Falcons at the Buccaneers. This is a huge matchup, as these are two of the top teams in the NFC South. These are the teams I expect to be competing for that divisional title. And if you asked me 1 week ago, this was an easy Buccaneers win. Lock it in. Let's move on. However, the Buccaneers have lost some significant assets in the past week. They lost Mike Evans for a few weeks, so he's going to be missing this game almost definitely. I mean, I guess technically he could play in the game, but I don't think that's going to happen. And Chris Godwin is out for the season. Losing your top two receivers in receiving options for a team that was definitely living and dying at the hand of Baker Mayfield, who was one of the best quarterbacks in the league through 7 weeks of the NFL season, is massive. On the flip side, the Atlanta Falcons still have their entire complement together. Bijan Robinson has been improved over the last few weeks. Same with Kyle Pitts. Drake London looks like one of the best receivers in the NFL, and this offense is rolling. These are both teams that live and die from their offenses and from their QB play, and so Vegas has picked the Falcons to win this game, I think primarily because of the losses that the Buccaneers have had. And I'm really torn on this one, but because I'm torn, I'm going with the home team. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning this game. Yes, I understand they are missing their top two receivers, but I'm going to trust that Baker Mayfield is him, and it's not just the receivers that have made him good, but the offensive scheme in general and Baker Mayfield's ability as a passer that have made him and the Buccaneers offense good. They'll have a running back threesome in Sean Tucker, Bucky Irving, and Rachaad White who can be effective. Jalen McMillan will have to step in and be the number one receiver, but he was a highly touted prospect as a rookie, so let's see what he's able to do within this offense. And K. Doughton is a more than solid tight end who can definitely help to fill in for that Mike Evans role, being a big-bodied receiver for the Buccaneers. You bake all that in, I think their offense can do enough to take this win at home against the Atlanta Falcons. So this is one of my upsets this week. Following that divisional rivalry game, we have another divisional rivalry game. We have the former Cleveland Browns, i.e. the Baltimore Ravens, visiting the current Cleveland Browns. And I don't think anyone should be surprised to see this. I'm picking the former Cleveland Browns, i.e. the Baltimore Ravens, to win this game on the road pretty handily. Now, I think the Browns definitely have a leg up compared to previous weeks because they're going to have Jameis Winston under center instead of Deshaun Watson, and I think Jameis Winston is a massive step up. However, the Browns have already showed that they're selling this season. They got rid of Amari Cooper prior to last week. David Njoku is back, as is Nick Chubb, but I don't think these guys are going to be enough to make up for a putrid offensive line, especially going against a Ravens team who is one of the best teams in the NFL right now. They are on a 5-game winning streak after losing their first 2. They look dominant, and I expect the Ravens to be able to easily handle the Cleveland Browns in this game. Next up, we have yet another divisional rivalry game, this time the Indianapolis Colts visiting the Houston Texans, in a game that coming into the 2024 season, I would have been salivating at. These two teams went neck and neck for the 2023 season, and it all came down to a Week 18 clash between these two teams to determine who made it to the playoffs and who missed out. The Texans ended up winning that game, and I really thought that this year it would come down to the Indianapolis Colts winning the division. I talked about this a lot over the offseason, and I acknowledge I was clearly wrong because Anthony Richardson, in spite his performance in Week 1 against the Houston Texans, is not him. Now, the Indianapolis Colts at home against the Texans in Week 1 did put up a pretty good performance, and it was a very, very close matchup. However, the Colts have gone this way since then. The Texans have gone this way, with the exception of a couple losses to some NFC North opponents. And so I'm picking the Houston Texans to win this matchup against the Indianapolis Colts at home in Houston. CJ Stroud is definitely a better quarterback than Anthony Richardson. I don't know if Anthony Richardson is good enough to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. If they had Joe Flacco under center, I might look at this game a little bit differently. But given they don't, even with the Texans missing a guy like Nico Collins, who they had for that first matchup, I'm still taking the Texans to win this game. They're going to go 2-0 against the Colts and basically lock up this division through 8 weeks of the NFL season. Next up, we have Vegas's lock of the week, the Tennessee Titans visiting the Detroit Lions. And if you have to ask who Vegas has as the lock of the week, you probably haven't been watching enough football this season. They have the Lions winning this game as their lock of the week, and guess what? So do I. This is a slam dunk of a pick. I'm not even going to talk about this game that long because the Lions have been one of the best teams in the NFL all season. Just a really close loss to a really good Tampa Bay Buccaneers squad when they were mostly fully healthy, at least on the offensive end. As for the Tennessee Titans, while their defense has been solid, their offense has been absolutely putrid. Will Levis and Mason Rudolph cannot get anything done for this offense, and so I don't think they're going to be able to put up points on the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions have a high enough powered offense and love to run the ball that they're going to be fine in this game against the Titans. They're at home in Detroit. There is nothing about this game that tells you the Lions shouldn't dominate it. And so, yeah, they're winning. Let's move on. Next, we got the New Orleans Saints visiting the Los Angeles Chargers. And the Chargers had a bit of a rough week on Monday Night Football. I expected J.K. Dobbins to go off running against a Cardinals team that hadn't been very good against the run, and they weren't really able to do much in the running game. It was all about the passing game, and they couldn't even get a touchdown. Dicker, the kicker, scored all of their points en route to a loss to the Cardinals. However, this week they are playing the New Orleans Saints, and the New Orleans Saints are actually the New Orleans backups, because on offense, with the exception of Alvin Kamara, they really don't have anyone. I don't know yet if Taysom Hill will be back. I don't think he will be. And Derek Carr won't be, Chris Olave won't be, Raheem Shaheed is still going to be out. Their entire offense just seems to be on IR or gone. The Chargers have a solid defense under Jim Harbaugh. They will find a way to score points or at least put up something on this Saints team that allowed over 30 points last week to the Denver Broncos of all teams. So I'm taking the Chargers to win this game. The Saints falling to 2-6, and my God, would they have fallen from the highest of highs when people were literally saying this was the best team in the NFL through 2 weeks. I was one of the few people out here who wasn't saying that. I put them even up to like 12 or 11 on my power rankings, and clearly, even that was way too high. Next up, we got a matchup of two divisional leaders. We have the Buffalo Bills, leaders of the AFC East, playing against the Seattle Seahawks, leaders of the NFC West. Both these teams have been through up and down seasons thus far. The Buffalo Bills started out the season hot, winning their first couple of games and being considered one of the best teams in the league prior to losing a couple of games before getting back in the win column en route to a 5-2 record thus far through the season. For Seattle, they started out 3-0 before losing 3 straight and then getting back into the win column last week, moving to 4-3 on the season. Both these teams have very good offenses, though their receiving game is where I think there might be a bit of a delta, because the Buffalo Bills have just added Amari Cooper, who looked phenomenal in limited snaps in his first game with the Bills, whereas on the other side, the Seattle Seahawks are likely going to be missing DK Metcalf come week 8 of the season, unless he miraculously comes back from missing the last couple of practices. I don't expect it, but it is possible. Again, I'm recording this a few days before it is released, so who knows? I might be wrong. But if Seattle doesn't have him, and frankly, even if Seattle does have him, I think that Josh Allen and the rest of the Buffalo Bills will be enough to take down the rest of the Seattle Seahawks. And so I have them winning this game on the road. Yes, Kenneth Walker should be a problem for the Bills, and I totally expect this to be a high-scoring matchup, but I think that Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills come out on top in this game. Next up, we have a matchup of first overall pick and second overall pick quarterbacks. Now, I know everyone thinks this is going to be Jaden Daniels, but there's actually a good chance Jaden Daniels doesn't play in this game. Obviously, you in the future watching this might know a little bit more than me about whether he's playing or not, but either way, the backup quarterback is Marcus Mariota, who was also picked second overall, so it still holds first overall versus second overall, just maybe different draft classes. Early on in the season, this definitely would have been a Washington Commanders advantage because Jaden Daniels looked very good as a quarterback and Caleb Williams didn't look like he could do anything. The Bears started the season 1-2. Before they started to pick up, Caleb Williams started to play a lot better, and they won their last 3 games going into their bye week last week, which also means they're going to be coming off the bye to play in this game, meaning they've been able to prepare for it for an extra week on top of what the Commanders would be able to do. And so the combination of the Bears coming off the bye week, them picking up their game over the last few weeks, and the Commanders potentially being without Jaden Daniels, and even if Jaden Daniels is healthy, who knows how effective he's going to be as a quarterback. And so even though they're on the road, I'm taking the Chicago Bears to win this game. A lot of people I expect to be taking the Commanders to pull off the upset in this one, as Vegas has also picked the Bears. But just because of that uncertainty around Daniels, I'm gonna go with the Bears and Caleb Williams, and the NFC North just continues to dominate. And next up, we have a rematch of a Super Bowl from about a decade ago. when the Denver Broncos beat the Carolina Panthers. Both these teams have fallen significantly since the days of those Super Bowl highs, though I think the Denver Broncos are a little bit ahead of the Carolina Panthers, and by a little bit, I mean a lot of bit. It still doesn't mean that the Broncos are, Super Bowl contenders by any means. I do not think they are, but at least they seem to be on the upswing of a rebuild, whereas the Carolina Panthers seem to be in the very bottom of just everything. I don't quite have them on last in our power rankings, but maybe I should, especially seeing as Andy Dalton is now out, which means Bryce Young is back to the starting quarterback, and that's not good for the Carolina Panthers' chances this year, or, any year. With the Denver Broncos being at home, I am taking them to win this game. I think their offense is a little bit better than the Panthers, but on their defensive side, they are significantly better than the Panthers' defense. And given I think that the Broncos are better on both sides of the football, they're at home, and I just don't see how Bryce Young puts up pretty well any points against this Denver Broncos defense. I think this is a pretty safe Broncos victory. And for our final non-primetime game, we have the Kansas City Chiefs visiting the Las Vegas Raiders. These two teams hate each other. There is very few rivalries in the NFL that matches the disdain of the Kansas City Chiefs and the Las Vegas Raiders. And while this might be a pretty big rivalry game, I think the caliber of teams is vastly different. The Raiders are one of the weaker teams in the NFL, and while they sometimes do still put up a pretty good fight against the Kansas City Chiefs, I just don't know how the Las Vegas Raiders are able to score a considerable number of points on the Chiefs. There is a chance that Brock Bowers has an amazing game that leads the Vegas Raiders to victory because the Chiefs have not defended the tight end that well this season, but that's a really small path to victory. And even if that does happen, that also assumes that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense can't just, turn it on when they actually need to. Their defense has held them through games thus far this season, but we all saw what happened in the playoffs last year. Their offense didn't look great, especially in the second half of the 2023 NFL season. But when it came to playoffs and the offense actually had to do something, the Kansas City Chiefs offense was phenomenal. I expect more or less the same from the Chiefs this season. It's just we haven't had to see their offense do much, and so they haven't. But if the Raiders manage to do something, the Chiefs offense likely can get themselves moving. And so I just don't see a world where the Chiefs don't pull this off, even though it's an in-division rivalry game in Vegas, where I often like to pick the home team in those games. The difference in caliber of teams is just so great that I gotta go Chiefs. And now for our second to last game, our Sunday Night Football matchup, we have the Dallas Cowboys visiting the San Francisco 49ers. This is a matchup of 90s juggernauts, and at least in 2023, this would have been a very, very good matchup. But in 2024, both these teams are struggling pretty mightily. Both these teams only have 3 wins on the season. The Cowboys are 3-3 coming off their bye. The 49ers are somehow 3-4 when I expected them to be like 12-5 or 13-4 on the season. They already have 4 losses. They're not getting Christian McCaffrey back. Deebo Samuel has pneumonia, and who knows how healthy he'll be. Jawan Jennings, it's questionable whether he'll return. Brandon Ayuk is out for the season, and the 49ers are just in shambles. That being said, it's not like the Cowboys are looking much better. Their passing attack hasn't really done anything. Their running attack has been putrid, and their defense has been significantly worse than they were in 2023 when that was the calling card of this Cowboys team. Again, like I said at the top of this game, these two teams coming into the season were considered 2 of the best in the NFC, and now they're just not that great. However, I am picking the 49ers in this game, primarily because 1, they're the home team, and 2, I just think they still have a talented roster, something that I'm less convinced about with the Dallas Cowboys. The 49ers struggles seem to be a little bit more transient, and I think they'll manage to overcome them. The Cowboys struggles seem to be a massive problem with the culture and the team and the coaching and everything in Dallas. And so I'm going to take the 49ers winning this one. And our final matchup for Week 8, we have the New York Giants visiting the Pittsburgh Steelers in prime time. The second straight week, we have a New York-based team visiting the Steelers in prime time. And yet again, we're going to have Russell Wilson starting for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And yet again, I'm picking the Steelers to win this game. The Jets were a team that actually was favored against the Steelers on the road, which shocked me. Obviously, if you watched this video last week, I picked the Steelers to win that game, and I was absolutely correct in that pick as they destroyed the New York Jets on Sunday Night Football this past week. The Pittsburgh Steelers looked a lot better with Russell Wilson under center as opposed to Justin Fields, and the New York Giants seem to be hit and miss. Yeah, their defense is actually pretty good, but their offense is inconsistent at best, and I don't expect this offense to be able to do much against a really good Pittsburgh Steelers defense, especially when they could barely do anything against the Philadelphia Eagles defense last week. And so I think that Russ will be able to do more than enough to get over the hump, beat the New York Giants, and have the Steelers going 6-2 halfway through the season, which, I mean, who had that on their bingo cards? Not me, I'll tell you that much. I thought they'd have a winning record, but 6-2? Damn. And that's our last game of the week. Thank you all for tuning into this video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, remember to leave a like and comment down below. Help us out, help us grow. I hope you enjoy week 8 of the NFL season, and I will see you all next time. Peace!